Hello. So, long time no speak, and my apologies for that. Got a few things to tell you. Basically, I picked up a bit of a virus, wasn't very well. That moved on to my chest. Literally 2 weeks of feeling like absolute shit, struggling to breathe. Anyway, started to feel quite a bit better, so I went out on the bike. Struggled. And at the time, I was very confused as to why my cardio was so bad, or why I was struggling so much. I put it down to the fact I wasn't over the virus. Then work went mental and a series of catastrophes there. I was due to go out to Ireland on a 8:30 ferry on a Wednesday morning. So I got up Tuesday morning at 6 o'clock as normal, did my day's work. Only to be advised by about 6 o'clock in the evening that I would have to catch the 2:30 in the morning ferry, which meant I was having to leave the house at 10 o'clock. So instead of going to bed that night and getting some sleep before I set off, I ended up working straight through, driving to Holyhead overnight, catching the 2:30, travelling over to Ireland, and then driving down to Cork. So I saw my clients, then up to Portrush. Unfortunately, it just worked out that I didn't get any rest that day and didn't get to bed till 10:15 on the Wednesday evening, hadn't been up 40 hours. 7 hours sleep, back up the next day into other side of Belfast to Lisbon, to Mark Getty's gym, and did a day there, and went to catch the 9 o'clock ferry, Barracross, which would have got me back home for about 2 a.m. in the morning. Unfortunately, this ferry was delayed because it had broken down. So they sent another ferry which was smaller. This ferry then struggled to dock at Holyhead because of adverse weather and because it was a lot smaller, so it was a lot more susceptible to the waves and the wind. This resulted in it actually arriving at Holyhead 4 hours later, which means I didn't arrive back at home till 7 o'clock in the morning and had done another 24-25 hours straight. At this point, I found that even walking up the steps, I'm struggling with my breath. Decided, took the weekend off work and woke up, or Friday night should I say, woke up Saturday morning feeling like dog shit, having had a very rough night. So went and presented myself at A&E. Their initial thoughts were that I had a PE, a pulmonary embolism, basically a blood clot on my lung. One of my bloods had a raised marker. They checked me for a heart attack, that was fine. Blood pressure was a little bit on the high side, but otherwise all good. So I spent the weekend in hospital waiting for a scan, never happened. So Sunday afternoon I discharged myself with an outpointment as a patient to come back the next day to do a scan, because I didn't see the point in staying there if there was no treatment that was being delivered while I was there. Again, I had another rough night, but better than I had. Went in the next day to be diagnosed with heart failure. Now, this sounds incredibly severe, and it can be. But my current situation is that it is quite mild. So effectively, what's happening is the right side of my heart isn't pumping as well as it should do. This is meaning that it's having to work slightly harder at a slightly higher rate. Now, I already have an irregular heartbeat, something I've had for years. So the combination of work hours and the virus and irregular heartbeat has caused this right side to start to struggle. Or this is what we thought at this point. So I was prescribed a very, very low dose of a beta blocker. In fact, so low that the chemist actually questioned why I was even using it. And a very low dose blood thinner. But previously I'd been on an injectable blood thinner, not warfarin, another one. And I'd had my last shot on Monday morning when I arrived at the outpatients clinic. Because at that point they were still treating me for a suspected blood clot. The strange thing was that Monday evening, so yesterday evening, I felt actually very, very well. Very well, in fact. The best I've felt in quite a while. Now, I've been struggling with my cardio, and I've been wondering why I haven't been making improvements with my cardio. And it would appear that my heart has not been doing so good for quite a while, but I just hadn't realised. It wasn't stopping me training. It was affecting cardio, but I just put that down to me being a fat, unfit bastard. Turns out not so. So, my blood values are higher end of scale, but not out of scale, but still higher end of scale. So, how is it then that I've been 415 pounds, I've taken shitloads of drugs, and yet 3.5 years later, drug-free, 70 pounds lighter, and I end up with a problem? And I think, the truth be known, that obviously my heart's enlarged from my drug use. I'm a fucking idiot not to know that. And obviously my heart wall doesn't work exactly as it should do because of my drug use. I'd be an idiot not to know that. But it's never caused me an issue, so why now? And I generally think it's because I don't train hard anymore, because I've downscaled and everything. And the hard training was keeping my heart at a better fitness level. Now that's gone. There's not been that to keep it working properly. Anyway, the downside or the upshot or whatever you want to call it, the result of all this is that they've grounded me for a week, so I'm not allowed to travel to any clients this week, which I'm pissed off about. And that basically I'm on some medication in the meantime. I'm going for a full, I've had one ultrasound, but it was just an ad hoc one, so I'm going for a full measured ultrasound. That will compare to my last ultrasound I had some years ago. If there's no real change in my heart structure, then they're going to just restart the AFib, or should I say, treat the AFib with probably a shock treatment to get my heart beating back in a regular pattern. And then it'll just be a case of build things back up again. A little bit of a beta blowout for a period of time to keep my heart rate down, and some blood thinners until my blood's come back into a lower end range. And then it'll be normal, back to normal. And there should be no long-lasting effect. There's no heart attack, there's no damage, there's no stent required or anything of that nature. It is just literally a case of, because my heart beats at an irregular rhythm, which it, as I say, has done for a very long time, and the combination of everything else, it's just thrown a bit of a fucking wobbler. But it was a bit of a shock. But it would appear to me, looking back now, particularly after how I felt last night, that it's not been 100% for a while. And I just hadn't realised because I've been so used to just being that way. I mean, I work 100 hours plus a week. Phone never fucking stops. I'm doing 2 podcasts a day as it happened. Oh, start a new podcast as well with Scott McNally. We haven't named it yet, but there's a few ideas in the pipeline. But we're recording the first episode today. And I'm doing one with Dave Palumbo today. Surprisingly, Dave's popped back up on the scene. And we're doing one on EQ and T-Ball today as well. But, you know, it never fucking stops. So I just put it down to the fact that, you know, I work a lot. And generally I feel okay. But my cardio was crap. And that was the bit I was finding a little bit frustrating. So, you know, it could just be all along that my heart's been struggling a little bit. And this has just actually been a blessing in disguise. Because it means I can sort this shit out before it becomes a proper problem. But one of the effects of this sync stuff is a mild low-level anxiety or a mild low-level, I don't know, anxiousness. I don't really know how to describe it. It's not anything severe, just an out of sorts feeling. And I just found it, you know, the amount of people that use and complain of anxiety issues, it may be worth just looking and seeing if everything in the old cardiac department is working correctly. Because I would never in a million years have said I was having any issues with my heart because I felt fine. And how could I pull the hours I pull if my heart wasn't working properly? You know, how could I still be benching over 3 plates natural if my heart wasn't working properly? And it turns out that it isn't. So, no worries me, because shit happens and I did it to my fucking self. Surprised I haven't had an issue sooner. Surprised I didn't have an issue when I was pushing it, to be honest. And tomorrow's another day. Just crack on. So grounded this week, and then next week we start mild cardio. I've rung the hospital this morning to discuss whether I go back on the injectable blood thinners, because that seemed to be having a very big positive effect. Well, you're doing, dogs, but stop it. And business as normal, really. So there you go. This is why there's been a lack of video, because I felt like shit. I felt like shit because I was broken. But all on the mend. So I hope you're all well. Like again, sorry for the lack of communication. Take care, and I'll speak to you guys soon.